Welcome, everybody, to the Monday Motivation Spotlight. I'm Lesley Kaplan, welcoming you here every single Monday for the last 9 months. Why am I saying that? Because this podcast, as most of you know, and if you don't, that's why I'm telling you, was born as a result of the war, which started exactly 9 months ago, unfortunately, sadly, and we're still continuing. Why did we start this program as a result of the war? Number one, we were all in desperate need of motivation, inspiration. That was on the one hand. And on the other hand, we wanted to give exposure to outstanding business owners, individuals, and amutot who all had a hit and were suffering, or the majority had a hit or were suffering during this challenging time. So what do? We have 30 minutes of inspiration, welcome you here, having a guest every time, and we've had some amazing guests. If you're watching the recording, welcome. I invite you to join us live from time to time too. And of course, if you want to rewatch this recording or view any of our other amazing spotlights, you can find it on YouTube or on Spotify under the Monday Motivation Spotlight. So how do we work? You remain on mute. This is not an official networking forum, but please do share with us, or feel free to share with us what you do in the chat. Please keep yourself on mute. And if you have any questions for our guests, whether it's questions, comments, feel free. This is interactive. Feel free to share something and be part of the chat. Thank you also to our co-host, ACI, and to our sponsor for the month, Lali's Flower Boutique in Jerusalem. So I'm going to co-spotlight our guest for the day, who is no stranger to some of you. And let me tell you a little bit about our guest for the day, Raphi Bloch. Hello, Raphi. Give us a smile. Good morning. All right, so who is Raphi Bloch? Raphi is the Senior Instructor and National Program Coordinator of Kids Kicking Cancer in Israel, the Hero Circle. He himself is a cancer survivor, and he has black belts, which you don't want to start with him. He may be short, but he's strong in karate as well as in jujitsu. I actually had to practice that word. For many of us who don't know what jujitsu is, please share with us as well a little bit later. So who is Raphi besides that? Besides working for the Kids Kicking Cancer before that, he held positions in the foreign ministry. He has also been active in real estate in Jerusalem and in Ashkelon for many, many years. And he's also a doer. He's a reserve officer in the IDF. He's still on Miluim at the moment, including working with Kids Kicking Cancer in Israel. So you'll tell us a little bit about that. He sits on the Ashkelon board. So for those of you that don't know, him and his delightful family live in Ashkelon. And he's been a member of the Ashkelon Search and Rescue Unit, as well as other volunteer stuff. So that's his official bio. His unofficial bio is that Raphi and his dear wife, Heather, hello Heather, and his family have been friends of mine for over 35 years, from before we even made Aliyah. We've been neighbors, we've worked together, and we've been through many ups and downs and seen things together. I knew Raphi before his cancer ordeal, during his cancer ordeal, and post his cancer ordeal. And I will just add, I've never met anyone that's been so resilient, so strong, so positive throughout this whole ordeal. And that's who Raphi is. He's a doer, he's a leader, he's positive. So glad you're sitting down. Otherwise, you're going to want to probably hide under the screen. So Raphi, take it away. Share with us about your life in Israel, about Kids Kicking Cancer, about your experiences, what you're able to share in the army, whatever you like. Aliyah, pre-Aliyah, take it away.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. Great to see everyone. Just a quick correction, not the foreign ministry, the finance ministry.
Sorry, I meant the finance ministry. Yes.
Not a problem.
Thank you for correcting it.
Yeah, not a problem. So as Lesley says, we made Aliyah in 1991, which feels like yesterday, but was actually well over 30 years ago. Which is really strange because looking at myself on the screen, I don't think I look more than about 10. So it's very interesting. But we made Aliyah. We were a few months in Haifa, and then we moved to Male Michmash, which is a yeshuv northeast of Jerusalem. And we were there for quite some time. We were there for 15 years. During that time in 1995, I was diagnosed with cancer, started in the back of my spine. But I'm not going to go through the whole details. By the end of the day, I had 7 growths all over my body. I lost count the number of times doctors told me, basically, get ready that you're not going to make it. And there was a very easy solution to all that. Every time a doctor told me, listen, there's not much I can do, you're going to die, I basically changed doctors. It's very simple. Um, you don't need to surround yourself with people who are going to be negative about that. And the joke of it is that out of 4 or 5 doctors that told me that, most of them have actually predeceased me. So it's an interesting, and I'm not happy that they did, but it's an interesting point, because one of the things I did notice, and I'm going to start with it, I have come across, both in my work now and prior to when I was ill, many people who were ill. And I have, let's put it this way, I have seen people with very positive attitudes who haven't made it. That happens. But I've never seen somebody with a negative attitude who has made it. Just let that sink in for a minute. Positive attitude doesn't necessarily mean it that you're going to make it, but it's going to help. And it's basically a case of, you can't always control the storm, but you can control how you react to it. So you need to stay calm, basically analyze the situation and deal with it. So to get back to my story, I had cancer for 13 years. I was not ill with cancer for 13 years. I had cancer. It was something on the side, the same as somebody would say, I had, I don't know, toothache or a short. I insisted not to stay in hospital. The hospital that I was treated in has probably a pile about that high of released against doctor's orders. I refused to stay in hospital, and I'm not advocating it for everybody, but for me it worked. I would go in, I'd have my chemo in the early morning, I'd have my radiation, and then I would go to work in the finance ministry. Fortunately, around me, everybody was very good and very helpful, and I was able to achieve that. Let's fast forward, 2008, I was given the all clear. And in 2015, after a couple of things within the family, I lost both my parents, I lost a brother. We decided it was time to make a change. We moved to Ashkelon. And again, I'm going to fast forward because I'd like to talk a little bit more about the we moved forward again, and Corona hit. And I had been working in real estate, and I was still working in real estate. People were still there, but I was volunteering with Kids Kicking Cancer. And at some point, the national coordinator, head coach, decided she wanted to move on to other things, and the position became available. I applied for it, and I got it. So I've been working the last 3 years as the senior coach and national coordinator of Kids Kicking Cancer Israel. Let me explain to you what Kids Kicking Cancer Israel is. Kids Kicking Cancer Israel is part of Kids Kicking Cancer International, which was started 25 years ago by a Rabbi Goldberg in Michigan. And it basically, and we started in Israel in 2013. What Kids Kicking Cancer does is that Rabbi Goldberg realized that martial arts killing, martial arts instruments can be used to help people in general, but specifically kids who were seriously ill, to manage what they were going through. And I'll give you examples. Kids who go into hospital with cancer or with other serious illnesses often feel like they are the victim. Why did this happen to me? What can I do? They're told when to eat, what to eat, how to eat, what to do, when to sleep, when to take, and they have no control of their life. What happens by using martial arts therapy, it gives back to the kids their control. They decide, yes, I'm in pain, but I decide how to deal with the pain. Yes, I'm tired, but I decide how to deal with how tired I am. And it turns the kids from victims to heroes. And we tell the kids a very simple thing. What is a hero? And in Hebrew, it works a lot better because we say, Maze Gibor, what is a hero? Gibor ze misha mitgaber. Hero is somebody who overcomes. And we say to the kids, Did you not want to get up out of bed this morning? No? Okay. You got out of bed. You overcame that desire not to get out of bed. You're a hero. And the moment we boil down the idea of we're a hero into its basic forms, doing something that you did not want to do, that you felt you could not do, you did it anyway, you're a hero. And it changes the whole view of the way these kids work. We work with kids who have got serious illnesses, no longer just cancer. We call kids kicking cancer, but around the world, and specifically in Israel, we call ourselves the Hero Circle. And I'll tell you why Hero Circle. We teach and give tools to the kids to handle all their problems, not just the disease itself, many other problems. We work with kids at risk as well. And by using those tools, the kids are able to help themselves even when we're not there. I'll give you a comparison. And by no means am I knocking anybody by saying this, but for example, a clown will go into a kid's room and a clown will distract the kid from the pain or from the hassle. And it's great. But the moment the clown leaves the room, the kid is back where he was before, back where he started. Okay? He might be happy for a little while, but back where he started. What we do is we teach kids martial arts breathing, martial arts meditation, martial arts movements, which enable the kid to use those tools when we are not around. We've had stories of people, of kids who have woken up at 2 o'clock in the morning in absolute pain, and before the medical staff has managed to get there, the kid in the bed next to him has got out of bed and has been working, breathing with the kid who was in pain and controlling it. And the medical staff are telling us these kids are actually working to help one to the other. In other words, it's a circle, hero circle. We are basically giving the tools, but the coaches are the kids themselves. They teach themselves, they work with themselves. They go home, they teach with their parents. We had now a girl who came into one of the hospitals, and when I walked into the room and I said, "Hi," she said, "You're Raphi." I said, "Yeah, okay. How do you know?" You come here to talk to me about Magal Giburim. You have to teach me about hero circle. I said, "How do you?" She says, "My brother's been learning with you in the Kids at Risk program for the last 2 years. And every day he works with you, he comes home and teaches us and works with us. So I know everything you're about to teach me." And that to me means that we're making a difference, because it's not just the people we're seeing directly. It's the families, it's the medical staff. The medical staff is going through a lot of stress, the same as everybody in Israel at the moment. And many times the nurse will pull me aside and say, "Listen, I need a 5-minute breathing break. I need you to teach me. I need you to work with me just to calm down." And this is for everybody. So our tools involve basically 3 or 4 main things. One, it involves breathing. And I will throw out a statistic here, which is going to probably surprise everybody. 90% of people in the world breathe at less than 60% of their capacity. In other words, 9 out of 10 people are breathing at about half their capacity. When I had one of the places I had cancer were my lungs, and my lung function dropped to around 25%, which means you're not supposed to be able to breathe. But I was breathing at 90% of that capacity, because I'd learned martial arts breathing. And this is what we try and teach the kids as well. Breathe, especially when they're in pain, especially when they're panicky. Slow down and breathe. And it's something that all of us can do. When things go wrong, try and breathe. I ask each of you now, tell me how you drive. Very few will be able to tell me exactly what you do when you drive. You get in the car and you drive. That's what our aim is, to teach people to breathe correctly without thinking about it, without having to go through the movements. Breathe correctly. That's the first thing. The second thing is guided imagery. Some of the kids we work with are stuck in bed. Some of them are actually totally paralyzed from the neck down, or they are not going to go out. We know that they're not going to go out on a trip or anywhere. But by taking them through guided imagery, having them close their eyes and work them through. Now we're on the beach. we're going through, we're on the sea. These kids are actually able to go in their mind on trips that they will never physically be able to go on again. And it's very important because when a kid is in a very low point, or an adult, they're able to take themselves away to a different point. You know, my wife gets upset with me because I say, well, why do we have to go on a holiday? I can just go there in my mind. I know it's not the same thing, but, you know, your mind is a much stronger tool than most people realize. It can take you anywhere and it can decide A or B. Two people can see the same thing. One will be totally negative, one will be totally positive, and the only difference is the way they look at it. The third thing we do is the martial arts movement, punching, kicking, etc. And I'll give you another example. We had a kid where the doctors said, listen, there's nothing physically wrong with this kid, but he can't lift his right arm. He cannot lift his right arm. We think it's psychosomatic. And the physiotherapists have been working with him, and the psychologists, and this kid would not. Very simple. Started working with the kid, having him block punches with his left arm. And for a few minutes, we have him block with his left arm. Then the coach, myself, I switched arms and started working with the right arm. And without thinking, he started moving his right arm up to block. Because it wasn't this is part of your treatment. It was a natural reaction to, oh, okay, now I can do that. And they don't feel like they're being medically treated because we're martial artists. When you walk into a room and you're wearing, and I'm not wearing it now, but when you wear your martial arts which is a uniform with a black belt, first thing the kid is, what is this strange person walking into my room in a hospital? And that is why we do very well with that. Basically, we work now in half a dozen hospitals, and we're trying to expand to more. We have more hospitals wanting us than we have the ability to actually supply coaches to. And we work with kids at risk in schools. And one of the big interesting things, just the same as this workplace has started since the beginning of the war. Since the beginning of the war, we've been working with soldiers as well. Because our toolkit works with anybody and everybody. And we have found that the soldiers who are in rehabilitation, and even those who are still being treated within the wards, respond phenomenally well to the breathing, phenomenally well to being able to use their physical abilities. You know, we don't hold back. We'll go into a soldier who's not lower lane, who's got one leg or whatever, and we let him punch, we let him kick, we let him breathe, we let him do all these things with us. And so for this year, we've worked with something close to, I'd say, 450 soldiers, something. No, probably more, 700 soldiers, thinking about it. So, yeah, we worked 653, I've just looked up the number, 653 soldiers this year. And if we're talking about numbers, we've worked with nearly 8,000 children. And that's the beginning of the year. It works, basically, the toolkit works. What we do, we have the most amazing group of volunteers and instructors. We need a lot more. And I'm going to throw out a thing here. Anyone who can donate, at the end of the day, instructors translate from money. We have to pay them. We do have volunteers, but a volunteer is a lot less reliable than a paid person. But also, it takes a minimum 2 to 3 months to get onboarded to a hospital because of the medical things we have to do. So a volunteer is not going to come unless they're going to be there for a long haul. That's pretty much what we do. In general, the idea is you got to be positive. We work with parents. Many times parents are at a loss, and we work with the parents to help them stay positive, because the parent is positive, the kid feels it. We've had kids who are unconscious in rooms, and when the parent is relaxed, the kid is relaxed, even though the kid is unconscious. When the parent starts getting jumped and chipped, you can see the kid unconsciously being jittery. And it translates, let's translate it into our lives here now. If you're having trouble with work, we're having trouble with the general situation, by staying calm, by thinking through the situation, and there's two options with any situation. Either you can control it or you can't. If you can't control it, there's no sense getting upset about it. If you can control it, go ahead and control it. No sense getting upset about it. So bottom line is there's no sense getting upset about it one way or the other. So we try and teach that. Martial arts is very good. Lesley had asked me to explain right at the beginning what's jujitsu. Basically, karate is where you stand and try and kick and punch. Jiu-jitsu is where you grab people, try and throw them on the ground and throttle them. It's much more hands-on, but that's the difference, Lesley. I'm open to comments, questions.
Yeah, Raphi, tell us a little bit also. Firstly, I think that this is the perfect position for you, the fact that you're using your love for karate and this jiu-jitsu, as well as your personal experience of having gone through cancer, that you can identify with these kids, and of course your positive nature. Tell us a little bit, let's take a slightly different direction about living in Ashkelon during the war, your position in the army as a reserve officer, whatever you're allowed to share with us.
Okay, I'm just going to take 1 second here. You mentioned me having cancer, and in retrospect, I see that as a blessing, and you'll see, and I'll have to explain why. Without having been ill so long, I would not be able to relate to the kids in the way that I relate to. I can go into a kid's room and say, I know what you're going through, as opposed to somebody who hasn't. And it means that I can work with them on a level that I would not be able to work with them otherwise. So everything that happens to you in life at some point has something positive, and we may not see it right away. It may take 15, 20 years later for you to realize why, but it's there. Okay, Ashkelon. Well, as everybody knows, Ashkelon got hit pretty badly at the beginning of the war. It's quietened down a lot since then. And one of the schools that we work with is Kids at Risk here in Ashkelon. And when the schools did come back, and we came back, and we're talking about a city where the kids were subject to hundreds of missiles a day at the beginning. And we asked the kids, how did you manage? How are everything going? And the kids were saying, oh, we were fine. We sat in the safe rooms, and we taught our parents and everybody else in the safe rooms, and sometimes in communal safe rooms, how to breathe. We just did a kids kicking cancer session with them every time, how to breathe. We taught them how to punch. We taught them how to. We said, oh, we're stuck here, but let's go for a walk. And they did what we taught them to do. And the staff of the school, the principals, etc., came back to us and said, we were shocked at how stable the kids were when they came back. And the only thing that we can think about is the fact that they were actually applying the tools that they got. And they said we compared them to schools. They were the principals that she was talking to, other principals, and many of the other kids were totally in a totally different place. And the kids that we'd been working with, not every single one of them. Obviously, there were individuals who were less or more affected, but so most of them were totally relaxed. This is what it is. We're in a safe room. We're breathing. All good. And they handled. So that was Ashkelon. We actually, the war, and again, I'm not saying it's a wonderful thing, but the one good thing that we could see about it is that it was a litmus test of what we're doing. We saw that what we do works because the kids in our programs in Ashkelon handle the stress of being under a barrage left, right, and center for a lot better. I can't go into too much detail about what I do in Millennium. I have been in and out of Gaza for the last 9 months. I'm in an intelligence unit, and basically that's more or less what I do. I keep joking that one sort of need a telephone box because I changed from uniform to uniform. Kids kicking cancer to army to backwards and forwards so often. But that's what I do. And the interesting thing, which I can share, is having spoken to soldiers, it's amazing how positive most of the soldiers are. You know, these are soldiers who've been sitting months in Gaza, soldiers who've been sitting elsewhere. It's amazing how positive and how naturally this positive attitude is sitting with the soldiers when they're feeling they're doing something, they're feeling they're achieving something. And I think that's that's an important point. Whatever you're doing in life, you need to have a purpose. If you feel that your purpose is just getting up and showing up to work and not back, then you're not living. You're alive, but you're not living. You need to have a purpose. You need to be doing something that's that's worthwhile. And I'm just happy that the work I'm doing is work that I feel is important and helping people.
Amazing, Raphi. Yeah, I told you guys he was going to be inspiring and what the work he does, and amazing. He's kicking cancer. You do incredible stuff. And as I said before, I think truly that you're a classic example to be working with this type of amuta, because not only of your experience with the illness itself, but because of your positive attitude. And I love the whole idea that you're getting kids basically to distract from the illness and focus on something else, calling them heroes. And as I wrote in the chat, you're in the organization, you're teaching kids as well as their parents, literally tools for life and how to handle any kind of challenge, any kind of stress. So, kola kavod. I see that Adina did write in the chat if anyone would like to donate or be part of it or volunteer. There's a phone number there. There's a link there. So please use that. Yeah, Raphi, you wanted to add something?
Just add, Raphi, if you are able to share screen from your WhatsApp, I actually sent a picture of Raphi working with one of our soldiers, which I drew a lot of inspiration from.
I'm not sure my WhatsApp.
Right, I'm not sure if I'm able to share that, but thank you.
No, my WhatsApp's not even. But there are pictures on the site as well, and yeah, we work with kids. My phone's not even connected to my computer, so I wouldn't get into my WhatsApp right now anyway.
Right, which is probably better not, because it would be beeping on the side with both of your positions.
Beeping on the side and all the rest of it. So yeah, but yeah, we do work, as we say, we work with kids, we work with adults. We have worked with that's one thing I wanted to mention. We do work online. During Corona, it was far more common, obviously, but we work online, not a huge amount because it's not quite as effective. But we have worked with parents who've needed to learn how to work with their kids. In other words, haven't worked with the kids directly because they've been very young, 3-year-olds, but we have worked with parents, and the parents have come back saying how not only has it changed the way they work with their kids, but it's changed the way they approach everything in their lives. One of them is a big businessman, and he said, I used to get really tense anytime somebody would throw something at me to do extra work or to do this, or there was a glitch in something that I was doing. Because now I stop and I breathe. I'll give you another example from life, and then I'll give you a very fun story.
One of the kids, because we do need to wrap up shortly.
Okay, so one of the kids, I'll give the thing. One of the kids that I worked with was 17, 18. I worked with him for about 2 years. And he learned breathing. He was seriously ill, Baruch Hashem. He recovered 100%. At age 22, invited me to his wedding. Wow. And under the chuppah, he's doing the breathing techniques under the chuppah during the ceremony. And I said to him afterwards, I said, what's going on? He says, listen, I went through cancer. I went through to Bogrud. I went through everything, and I've never been so stressed as I was under the chuppah. If I hadn't been breathing, I would have passed out. I said, oh, that's fun. He says, but you know what the really funny thing was? Afterwards, the rabbi came to me and asked me, where's this minhag from? What edda, what thing creates this minhag? And
right. Well, maybe you should start working with women in labor in the hospitals too. That could be an option.
That's a slightly different breathing as well. And I might be brave, but I'm not that brave.
Raphi, Toby actually asked an amazing question in the chat. Does one need to be an expert in martial arts to volunteer?
One needs to have a background in martial arts. We are not turning these kids into Jackie Chan or Chuck Norris or world champions. You need to have a background in martial arts. You do not need to necessarily be a black belt. More importantly, you have to have the right mindset. You have to understand that it's about the kids, not about you. And top martial artists, like many top sportsmen, have egos very large. And basically, you need to leave your ego outside the hospital or outside the kids at risk room. It's not about you, it's about the kids, or it's about the parents, or it's about somebody. And so the answer to that question is, you need a martial arts background. It doesn't have to be an amazing background.
Right, great. And I just want to also, somebody asked the question, and also for those watching the recording who don't see the chat, if you'd like to get involved either via donation or volunteer, either go to the Kids Kicking Cancer website, or Adina, I'm going to read out your phone number loud that people can hear. This is Israel, of course, 058-332-76637. Okay, so if you'd like to get involved in Kids Kicking Cancer, please donate. It's an amazing cause. We've come to the end of an amazing session.
Can I add one thing about Raphi?
Yeah, just one thing. Yes, we've got so much to add about our dear Raphi.
I know. I worked with him for 10 years in real estate, and he was our main coach, and he has positivity and creativity and a person who is always optimistic. I must say that that's Raphi, and I think it follows him in every aspect of his life, and it's proof here of what he said today. Helping others is Raphi. That's Raphi. Raphi, positivity and helping others. And thank you, Raphi, for all that you do for the world, because you change the world. Mamash tikkun olam, and you are an amazing person. And I know he doesn't like to hear anything about himself because he always likes to talk about others, but he must hear this now, and everybody around him must hear how wonderful he is and how much he's given to the world.
I fully agree.
Thank you, Lesley.
Excuse me, if I can just interrupt the phone number. Was there maybe
a mistake in what you typed in?
It's 058-332-6637. 058-332-6637. Thank you so much.
Right, amazing. Thank you. Okay,
and I'd like to just thank you, Lesley, for inviting me.
Thank you so much for an amazing, more than 30 minutes of inspiration. Okay, Bezrat Hashem, should Hashem look after you, that you can carry on influencing so many people in all the spheres that you do. And I'll say also a pat on the back. Behind every amazing husband is an amazing wife, who I've no doubt, and I know, went through all these challenges with you. So sending a big hug to my dear friend Heather Otzvi, who's with us today. You know, she went through this with you, and just Ad Me'avis Rim to you all. Batzlacha. Thank you so much. To Am Yisrael, we should have, you know, no more challenges. Get through this safely. Thank you again to our co-host ACI. If you'd like to rewatch this or to look at any other recordings, please go to Monday Motivational Spotlight. And B'sorot Tovot, Am Yisrael Chai. Thank you, Raphi. It's been a pleasure having you on our show. And thank you to those who joined live. Am Yisrael Chai. Have a good, safe, quiet day. Bye-bye.